Welcome to this explainer. Imagine walking into an office where every single door requires a different key, employees have to memorize 15 different passwords just to do their jobs, and the IT department is running around like a headless chicken trying to keep track of who has access to what. It's chaotic, it's completely unmanaged, and frankly, it's a massive security nightmare. Well, today we are going to fix that. We're going to transform that absolute chaos into a beautifully centralized, highly secure digital workspace using Windows Server Active Directory. Essentially, we are going to construct a digital corporate office right from the ground up. Here's the roadmap for our construction project today. We'll start with a welcome to Active Directory, move into organizing your digital workspace, locking down the network, connecting and managing computers, and finally, perfecting the user experience. Let's get right to it. Welcome to Active Directory, the foundation of centralized IT. Okay, let's dive into this. Active Directory, or AD, is essentially the master brain of a Microsoft network. It's a directory service that handles the centralized administration of your users, your computers, authentication, and your security policies. Think about a real company. Instead of manually creating separate accounts on every single computer, Active Directory lets every employee use one username and one password for a completely centralized login system. It completely replaces that nightmare of multiple passwords with one single secure point of truth. Section 2. Organizing your digital workspace, or constructing your digital floor plan. So how do we actually solve the problem of digital clutter? Well, an organizational unit, or OU, is basically the digital floor plan of your office building. It's a container with an Active Directory used to organize your users, computers, and groups. Just like you wouldn't dump the HR team's highly sensitive filing cabinets right in the middle of the IT server room, OUs allow for crucial department separation. This gives you way better management and lets you apply specific security policies to specific departments. Let's look at how you actually build this out in the lab. First, you're going to open Server Manager, navigate over to Tools, and click on Active Directory Users and Computers. Next, you just right-click your domain, select New, and then Organizational Unit. Now, you might create primary OUs for HR, IT, finance, and sales, but you definitely don't stop there. For true best practices, you need to create sub-OUs to separate users from computers. For example, IT users, IT computers, and IT servers. This structured naming convention is exactly how an architect draws up rooms and subrooms. Now, our digital building obviously needs people. Meet our new hires, Ahmed Ali, Sarah Khan, and Ali Raza. To give them a digital identity, we go into our newly created HROU, right-click, and create their user accounts. These accounts are exactly what they'll use for login, email, and accessing company resources. And here's a massive pro tip for your setup. Always check the box that says Change Password and Next Logon. It ensures that only the employee knows their final password, which keeps you, the IT admin, completely out of the loop for personal credentials. Once your users are created, you have to actually give them access to things. Sure, you could assign folder permissions to Ahmed, then to Sarah, then to Ali individually, but what happens when 50 more people join next month? It becomes completely unmanageable. The solution here is groups. And this brilliantly illustrates why you assign permissions to a group just once and then simply drop your users into that group. Groups act exactly like a master key card for a specific department. There are two main types of groups you're going to use. Security groups are essentially your digital bouncers. They manage resource and folder permissions. If there's a highly confidential HR shared folder, you assign access to the HR team security group, and literally only those members get in. On the flip side, distribution groups are purely for communication. They manage email distribution lists, so you can easily email the whole finance team at once without typing out 30 different addresses. So we have our users and we have our groups. But I have a serious question for you. Why are password policies so absolutely crucial in the setup? Section 3, locking down the network, which means securing the office doors. 8. This is the absolute minimum password length you should be enforcing in your default domain policy. Anything shorter can literally be cracked in seconds by modern hacking tools. 8 characters combined with complexity requirements, and by that I mean uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols, creates a seriously robust first line of defense. And 5. This represents the maximum failed login attempts before an account lockout is triggered. Look, we all know that one employee who comes back from a long weekend and completely forgets their password, right? They just try password 123 over and over again. After 5 strikes, Active Directory locks the account. This entirely shuts down automated cyber attacks that are trying to brute force their way into your network. To actually enforce this, you open Group Policy Management and edit the default domain policy. You'll navigate down through computer configuration, into security settings, and right into account policies. That is where you lock in your length, complexity, and lockout thresholds. Once you're done, you run the command gp-update/force to push this rule out to every single computer instantly. Always test your policy by deliberately trying a weak password to make sure the system actually rejects it.
Section 4. Connecting and managing computers, or bringing in the furniture.
When you buy a brand new laptop for the office, it's just an isolated machine. It doesn't know anything about your network. Domain joining is the process of connecting that computer to your Active Directory domain. It brings the device under your centralized control, which allows network logins, enforces those group policies we just talked about, and massively upgrades its security posture. Let's move over to see how this builds in practice. Step 1 is absolutely the most critical. You must configure the computer's DNS to point to the domain controller's IP address. If you skip this, nothing works, period. You test connectivity with a simple ping or NS lookup. Then you head to the PC's properties, change the settings to join your domain, let's call it company.local, enter your admin credentials, and reboot. Suddenly, Ahmed can log into that machine using company/Ahmed. Managing these computers effectively means establishing strict naming standards. Every single joined PC becomes an object in Active Directory. A good standard like KHI-PC-001 or HR-PC-001 tells you its location and department immediately. Bad standards are factory defaults like desktop XYZ123 or even worse, Ahmed's laptop. If Ahmed leaves the company, you have to rename the whole machine. Keep it organized and immediately move these new computer objects out of the default folder and right into their proper OUs, like IT computers or HR computers. Now, if a domain join fails, don't panic. Here's your handy troubleshooting checklist. 99% of the time, it's a DNS configuration issue. If DNS is wrong, the PC simply cannot find the domain controller to ask permission to join. Check your network cables, ensure the server is actually online, and finally, just double-check that you didn't typo the administrator credentials. So our building is built, secured, and furnished. But I want you to imagine you're working hard, you accidentally spill hot coffee all over your keyboard, and you have to quickly move to a completely different desk. What happens to your files and your customized desktop settings when you log into a brand new computer? Section 5. Perfecting the user experience. Let's decorate the rooms. We actually solve this entire problem with roaming profiles and home folders. A roaming profile stores a user's desktop layout, settings, and configurations on the central server, rather than the local hard drive of the PC. A home folder is a centralized, private storage location for all their documents. By using the %username% variable in the file path, Active Directory automatically creates a custom, named folder for every single user on the network. Wherever they log in, their personalized digital workspace follows them. To set this up, you just create dedicated shared folders on your server, like D drive profiles and D drive home folders. You assign strict NTFS and share permissions, so only the correct user can access their own data. Then, you open the user's properties in Active Directory and paste those network paths right in. To verify you've done it right, simply have the user log into a completely different PC and watch as all their familiar desktop icons and files magically appear. And just like that, we have fully constructed our digital building. In this explainer, we covered the basics of Active Directory, structured our floor plan with organizational units, brought in users and organized them with groups, locked our doors with password policies, joined our computers to the domain, and absolutely perfected the user experience with profiles. It is an incredibly powerful logical system. But I'll leave you with this provocative thought. We just built this for 3 new users. How do you think this architectural foundation behaves when a company suddenly scales overnight to 50,000 employees across 10 different countries? That's the true power of enterprise IT, and definitely a topic for another day. Thanks for joining me.